Hi everyone, it's AlienButlerBlunders and welcome back to a brand new video today. I wanted to share with you something very exciting I've got my hands on recently, this fantastic box of Hobbit figures. These are all figures that were produced by the Bridge Direct, which is a company which produced lots of figures for the Hobbit films, and I've always had a very, very high opinion of them. Previously I only had Gandalf and Legolas and Bilbo and Gollum, but I've always wanted these fantastic orc figures, and they've always been very difficult to get your hands on, but for a very reasonable price I picked up this massive collection secondhand. And I'll in there you can see that there's a great goblin, there's a cave goblin, there's Grinner, I think they called him, there's orc riders, there's a warg, fantastic warg, which attracted me to picking this up. And in the background there's Bolg, and there's a little Thorin Oakenshield as well in there. So if you can see details of the box there, this was a box that was just supposed to contain the Great Goblin, or the Goblin King, and Thorin Oakenshield, but this has obviously got more packs in it. So if we look inside there, we'll take all those figures out for you carefully. So the most amazing thing about this is the fact that they all had their accessories with them, and accessories are one of the first things to get lost when you have figures like this, because the accessories are quite small. So generally I've kept small figures like this in sandwich bags or little plastic bags, just so their accessories don't get lost. But they really are beautiful little figures, and I'm so happy and so lucky that I picked this one up. So yeah, Thorin's losing things, but we'll just stand him up there. So yeah, so they've got all the accessories with them, which is really, really impressive. In the box, there's a few loose accessories there. So I'll just put that box there. So yeah, if we look at them, there's Grinner, the goblin there. There's two goblin riders. There's Bolg, who's Azog's super servant, so big, dangerous, powerful orc, and Thorin as well. So the thing with these figures is they don't stand too well, but that's fine, I think. So first off, I'll talk about the Goblin King. So he's very large, very impressive figure. He came with his crown, which often gets lost on second-hand figures like this. So it's a dainty little crown that plugs into a little hole on top of his head. The Great Goblin doesn't have too much importance in the book, really. I mean, he's not even named specifically, but he's one of the first real encounters with goblins in Tolkien, so he is quite an important figure. And they have made him kind of bigger and grosser and more monstrous and more like a troll in the film rather than the book, but I don't mind it. I mean, rewatching the Hobbit films, they do change a lot from the books. They do expand it, but rewatching the films, I think they really aren't bad. They really didn't deserve the negative press they got, and I think they're all highly rewatchable. So anyway, looking at this figure, he's just fantastic. He does have many points of articulation. These joints do seem a bit stiff, so I don't want to push him too far. And there's lovely kind of a matte pink paint on top of his like glossy pink body, but yeah, really nice. There are quite a few points of articulation there, so you can have him standing in different poses, but he's really grisly looking figure, so fantastic. And the next one we'll look at is the Warg. So this is a figure I've really wanted to get my hands on for years. This is probably one of the nicest werewolf figures on the market. It's not a werewolf in the sense that it's a human that changes into a wolf. It's just a giant evil wolf that the orcs use in their armies. And he's got some like damage injury, and again the joints are quite stiff, so I don't want to press them too far. What's really impressive is there's like a metallic bronze paint on the eyes, so it's got kind of an eye shine thing going on, which is really, really cool. But yeah, it's really, really impressive. I think just him and his rider, so him and his rider by himself are about £30 second hand if you're buying them brand new, but they really are such nice figures. And yeah, so that's him and his rider done. If we look at his rider, he does have a long spear kind of lance. The just fantastic. There's like a lovely dark wash over the skin, and they look incredible for what they are, for their size. If you compare them to some of the more heroic characters, they're actually kind of look plainer, the plastic, because all the villains are given kind of this dark, dirty wash to them. But yeah, they're all the 375-inch figures, so they're all quite small figures to this small scale, but they really are fantastic. And the adult there is about 10 centimeters tall, so it's just under 4 inches. But he's just 4 inches, but it's fantastic. Yeah, so he's really, really nice. I like kind of the soft vinyl cape, so that's really, really nice. He's got a little club, and so there's 2 of those in this box, because I think this includes a goblin pack as well. So the next one is this cave goblin Grinner, he kind of had these leather straps loose, and it was a while figuring out like what's the best way to put them on him, but he's got kind of these loose straps with like a little knife there. This is kind of a big goblin blade, so I think he was supposed to have the whip, but I just like him with the big blade. But that's really nice. Again, the joints are quite stiff, quite nice, and loads of points of articulation. The dark wash is just lovely, and they really are incredibly detailed figures. But this is a cave goblin, so the body's the arms are very, very long on the figure, and that's nice. It's a bit different to kind of the orc of the open grassland armies, but he's kind of a cave goblin specifically. And the next one to have a look at is this Bolg here. And Bolg, it's funny with this character because he looks very, very different in the books. Not the books. He looks very, very different throughout the pre-production of this film. So he's a very minor character in the book, and I think Azog's actually supposed to be dead in the book. He was killed by Durin, I think, in like an ancient battle long before the Hobbit. So there was no Azog in the Hobbit book, but there were still orcs and orc armies, and I think Bolg was the leader. But they've kind of brought Azog and Bolg in. I think he's supposed to be the son of Azog, but in the film you can't really tell that. They're kind of just working together, and he's the servant of the greater orc leader, Azog. But yeah, he's got this really impressive little club, and his armor's really nice, and there's lots of bones on him there. He's got like a red beard and red hair, and he's got like a human spine on the back. Again, he's a very tough, like barbarian looking character. I personally prefer the slimmer kind of dark leather look to orcs rather than the big barbarian look. I kind of prefer the slimmer look. So I prefer my orcs to kind of be, or orcs or goblins to be kind of half naked, little more savage looking, rather than kind of boastful, oh look how many people I've killed kind of attitude with them. So anyway, the last one is Thorin himself, Thorin Oakenshield, and he's got, which is very impressive, he's got Orcrist still on his back. So again, this is one of the first things that gets lost when people kind of donate these figures, or even when they're in their collections, these little things do get lost. It does pop off a few times, but it holds on okay. He's got his little dagger, and it has kind of bent a bit, but that's fine. Again, his joints are quite stiff, so I don't want to push them too far. He does as well have his little oak shield to cover his forearm. It does clip on, but it doesn't clip on very well. It wants to fall off, but other than that, it's fine. So yeah, that's it. I got my hand. So that's it. Basically, I've got my hands on these fantastic figures to add to my collection, and they're really, really impressive. I'd have to say my favorite is probably this little cave goblin Grinner. Like, the dark wash is just so fantastic, and they're just really impressive detail quality. They're not posable as because they're not too posable because you don't want to kind of damage the joints, but they're just nice standing as they are. So in my large collection, so I do have a Legolas there, who I've had for a few years, with his little twin blades. The problem with these figures by the Bridge Direct is they are kind of cross-eyed sometimes, like the way they've applied the paint does look a tiny bit cross-eyed on Legolas, but still really nice. So the single, absolutely the best thing about The Hobbit is it made it easy to get Lord of the Rings merchandise, because even though Lord of the Rings is a better film trilogy than The Hobbit, it's still in the same world. Some characters are still shared, and Lord of the Rings merchandise from the original films from like 2001, 2002, 2003 are very rare and very difficult to get your hands on. So it's lovely that these figures are kind of making the characters more accessible and making figures of the characters more accessible to collectors for more reasonable prices. So yeah, they're just fantastic. I love this scale. This is like my ideal scale of these figures. I think any larger I might struggle to store them. But yeah, that's Gandalf there with Glamdring his sword. So fantastic. I've had this one for years. Yeah, and now he's got a lot more characters to go with him. He's got his scabbard on the side, so his sword does slide into his scabbard, which is nice. The stick is a bit warped, a bit bent, but that's fine. Then there's Bilbo and Gollum. Gollum does look a lot more impressive than Bilbo. He's got this lovely dark wash to him, which Grinner has as well. So with Bilbo, again, the plain skin just being one colour, it's not as convincing. It's not as textured or detailed as well as Gollum is, but Gollum is just lovely. These came in a twin pack, and I think these were kind of merchandised at about £10 each, I think. So yeah, I mean they're much rarer nowadays, but they are just absolutely fantastic figures. And the final things in my collection to show you are these kind of larger scale the larger scale Hobbit figures I've picked up. So again, these are by the Bridge Direct, and the larger scale figures, they do bear a much stronger likeness to the actors. That does look a lot more like Thorin, Richard Armitage, and that looks a lot more like Martin Freeman, Bilbo. Yeah, but the smaller figures are fine. So yeah, that concludes this video today. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I'm giving The Hobbit a second chance, and especially in the light of Rings of Power, I think that The Hobbit is a good franchise, and it does change and it does expand on the original book. And some of the things I'm not sure about, but overall I think it's very, very rewatchable. I think that Smaug is a fantastic antagonist. The dragon is just brilliant. It's just great. I changed my mind on The Hobbit. I actually quite like The Hobbit, and it's just nice to see more stuff in Middle Earth. And I think it's definitely the last thing I think Peter Jackson's going to direct. I think the disastrous impression of the Rings of Power meant that we're unlikely to have any more Tolkien stuff for a while, but The Hobbit's coming for its kind of 10th anniversary since it was released, all back in 2012, 2013, 2014. So you do see this merchandise in circulation, and if you see it, like, don't miss the opportunity, because they are just lovely, lovely figures. So yeah, that concludes this video today. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. So thanks for watching today.